time I met up with my cousin is when she made the trip from London to Bristol with her new and beautiful twin babies. We ended up taking a late night stroll to the 24-hour Tesco's to pick up some extra bits. Over the banality of the supermarket shelves, we talked about the ordinary mum things. It was really nice to catch up. And it made me so happy seeing my younger cousin, who I used to pretend was my baby, grown up and now mother to not one, but two whole new humans. And our relationship had definitely found a new depth through the shared experience of motherhood. And I love that motherhood has such a universal language. No matter your options, your choices, your expectations, I find there's always commonalities. But there's something specific for me, for my cousin, for lots of my friends, that's perhaps different for you. That motherhood as a Black woman means we have to carry not just our babies, but the burden of some pretty grim statistics. I had my youngest child in 2019. The Embrace report published shortly after told us that as a Black woman giving birth in the UK, I was 5 times more likely to die during childbirth or up to 6 weeks after compared to my white counterparts. 5 times more likely to die. That's not because I have an underlying health condition. It's not because I'm poor or my postcode. I speak English. I'm university educated. Not that these things should matter, but they offer no protection in maternity because of my complexion, because I'm racialised as Black. The evidence tells us Black women are dying from the same things white women are, just at a staggeringly disproportionate rate. The most recent Embrace report, published last month, tells us that now mortality for Black women is 4 times more than for white women. I'm not taking that reduction as a win. From the Office of National Statistics and data released earlier this year, if I was to give birth tomorrow, I would be categorised as Black African. As a Black African woman who's living comfortably, I am at twice the risk of stillbirth than a white woman experiencing the greatest level of deprivation. With all of the access and resources I have, my child is still twice as likely to be stillborn than a white woman's with nothing. Like I said, grim. And these statistics aren't just numbers and headlines. They relate to real people, real babies, real families, people like me, people like my cousin. I started this year at her funeral. I remember when I was first made aware that I was 5 times more likely to die, me and 2 of my best friends who I'd met when we were students, and by no coincidence are also Black women, agreed a master plan. Like lots of girlfriends, one day we'll all have babies at the same time. Like most things we put our mind to, we made it happen. On an ordinary maternity leave day of us WhatsApping about lack of sleep, sore nipples and first smiles, one of my friends shared a link to the report with that statistic. I was shocked. I was saddened. I was incredibly glad those facts were delivered at a time when I had no intention of having any more children. I also felt a sense of validation, this nervousness I'd felt through my pregnancies that turned into a feeling of luck when I had my babies, had always felt just a bit different to feelings that my white friends had expressed. Turns out I was damn right to feel nervous. So why do these statistics exist in 2023? There are some one-off horror stories. In a hospital not far from here, a woman and her husband went to what they were expecting to be a routine antenatal appointment. What followed was a number of failings before, during, and after she gave birth, according to the coroner's court. Without her proper consent, she was induced. It's a process where labour is given an artificial kickstart. She laboured alone. Induction can take a long time. Her husband had gone home to look after their other child, but no one from the hospital called in to tell him that things had progressed. Without her partner by her side, she gave birth to a baby girl. When she experienced a postpartum hemorrhage, which is excessive bleeding following delivery, the emergency call bell was not used to get help. There was a 53-minute delay in her being administered the needed blood transfusion. Her husband remained at home, unaware that his child had been born or that his wife was critically unwell. Now he's raising 2 girls without their mother. Heartbreaking. Avoidable. A story that's not nice to tell, but I'm afraid opting out of Black trauma is a privilege that not everyone has. I'm just thankful these tragedies are rare. So then why? I don't believe there's a specific pathway of maternity trauma that's reserved for Black women. But then why was I 5 times more likely to die? I, of course, cannot speak for all Black women, and we can only speculate on my cousin and others that are no longer with us. But for me, the oppression has been much more subtle, softer or lighter moments when I've been very aware of my Blackness. But if you add up enough soft and light things, you have something that is hard and heavy, sometimes fatal. This is what some of those softer things look like for me. So in my first pregnancy, I'd not been feeling quite right for a couple of days, and my gut was telling me something was up. But as a Black woman, I doubted my gut feeling would have the right credentials to access the right support. It's well reported that Black women are often medically disbelieved, refused, and gaslit. My community midwife, a white woman that I've been seeing throughout my pregnancy, was amazing. We're still good friends 9 years later, but I wasn't scheduled to see her for another week or so. And so knew in this situation, I'd have to seek help from someone else. I was desperate for reassurance that everything was okay. But the thought of having to go to a hospital, try and make someone believe me, with the risk that my racialised identity would be the defining factor in my care, was intimidating, and I knew I'd have to tread carefully. I don't even need to raise my voice to be deemed as difficult or making a fuss. If I do raise my voice, I'm seen and believed to be aggressive and angry. It wasn't until I started bleeding with faith this would be sufficient proof that I called the hospital. It turns out I'd gone into labour at 28 weeks. That's 3 months early. I didn't learn this until after, but preterm or premature birth is another one of those things that disproportionately affects Black women. If I'd taken a bath that evening and not noticed the bleeding, how might that have changed things? Would it just be that preterm birth statistic that me and my baby were contributing to? After my baby was born, we spent 10 weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit, or NICU, and the care for him was fantastic. And there were chaplains available for emotional support. I watched the chaplains visit other parents' bedsides, but they never checked in on me. I was there every day for 10 weeks, and they did not speak to me once. I remember Googling if chaplains offered their services based on religion. Perhaps I'd missed some paperwork and I needed to fill out a form to say I believed in a God. But no, NHS chaplains are there to support anyone challenged by illness or injury. Was my challenge not clear or not enough? Perhaps they thought I looked too busy to talk, or perhaps I just didn't look sad enough. I'm sure they meant no harm, but really there's no excuse. We need to focus on the impact of that interaction or non-interaction rather than any unintentional intent, because mental health conditions are one of the leading causes of death in the perinatal period, and that can affect any woman. But Black women are most likely to experience poor mental health and least likely to receive support. During that 10 weeks in NICU, something that gave some structure to the long days and even longer nights was my pumping regime. So when I wasn't able to pick up or cuddle or be with my baby, something I could do for them was pump my breast milk to be delivered direct to their tummy via an NG or feeding tube. I was under strict instruction to pump every 3 hours, day and night. It wasn't easy, but I embraced the challenge and I was thankful to have something practical to do. Through some incredible care and support and my even more incredible baby, by the time we left hospital, the feeding tube was gone and I was able to breastfeed. Over that 10 weeks, I built up some pretty good milk reserves and learnt from other mums that this could be donated to other babies and families. Our freezer was full of the good old white stuff and I was keen to donate my excess. I went through the screening process and tick, my milk could be donated. The milk donor bike was scheduled to come and collect from our home. I'd really enjoyed following the Facebook page of the milk donor bike, seeing posts and pictures of other women in similar situations who had donated their breast milk. And it was something I was really looking forward to being a part of. After collection day, I waited and waited and refreshed and waited for my picture and story to be featured. And when it wasn't, that hurt. I struggled to understand why I was so keen to see my picture on a Facebook page. When talking to a friend, she suggested perhaps it was a response to the generational trauma I carry as a black woman, from when enslaved mothers were forced to abandon their babies to feed the children of their white owners, and the opportunity and desire I had to change that narrative by me willingly donating my milk. Ironic, when I know the reason I wasn't featured is because there are people in that Facebook community that would of course question if milk from a black woman was safe or suitable for their child. I didn't have a horror story, my experience was softer, but I was 5 times more likely to die, my children twice as likely to be stillborn. In my second pregnancy, I found myself back in that system and environment, hyper aware of my own behaviour and engaging in all of the tools I had to distract from me being black. A constant negotiation of who I am at the same time as carrying and then giving birth to a baby. Exhausting. My third child was born at home. Not because I was embracing my alternative side, because I was opting out of the oppression, because I was too tired of leaving bits of my identity that I love and I celebrate in waiting rooms to avoid triggering the bias. And let's be real, not all biases are unconscious. In June this year, the government rightly said we must do more to ensure maternity care is consistent regardless of ethnicity. They also rejected recommendations to set a target and strategy to end disparities in maternal death. I'm no conspiracy theorist, but this feels like a very intentional lack of interest and investment. And if the powers above are not going to do anything, then we as individuals need to take action. Black Mothers Matter is an organisation we started to support and celebrate black pregnancies because we deserve and demand better. We started as 3 friends having babies, naturally forming a support network and seeing the need to extend that support to others. Now our team is a small but mighty rainbow of black women with important intersecting identities, coming together, pooling our skills and advocating for what's right. We have hundreds of beautiful interactions each week, providing safe, relevant, essential support to our community of black women. We work with professionals in and out of the NHS that accept this isn't an issue with black and brown bodies and are open to listening, to learning, to growing and to making change. We don't want to be doing this work forever, and we look forward to resting when we're redundant. But until then, we need more support, your support, to make that happen. Motherhood for anyone takes a strength that is immeasurable, and all mothers everywhere, I honour you. For me, motherhood also includes a harsh realisation that as a black British woman who's university educated, who has a white husband, who's comfortable in white spaces and systems and can navigate them well, that in this extremely precious, vulnerable, joyful, exciting time in my life, I cannot mitigate or offset the risks of my race. As a Black British woman with West African parents, I know I need to work harder, but this is too much. Black women, people, please take care. Everyone else, we need you to look out for us in all of the ways that you can. All I want is for Black women to have that same opportunity to be able to prepare for beautiful, not brutal, to plan for success, not survival. That's it.